it also shows for the Bush theory around the gate how it couldn't actually happen. There would have to be more wounds.
So the other thing we want to touch on is like, so you'd obviously heard of Jim Garrison and his case he brought forward. So like, and you said how accurate did they get a lot of it pretty right? Like in terms of a lot of the main ideas he had, and
I'd say so. They focused a lot on him, and I think they gave him a good opportunity to.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very detail-oriented movie. I mean, it's very detailed. And then also, my question to you about that would be like, do you think that what ultimately do you think debunks his theory, Jim Garrison's theory, in your opinion? Because obviously there's a lot of...
There are still people who question it today. Yeah. I think a majority of people still question it today.
Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah.
So...
What for you specifically?
For me specifically is actually looking at the facts, getting away from kind of the hoopla of social kind of society going at it as a conspiracy and looking at, okay, let's look at the videos, let's look at research done and actually look at in reality and see, and it makes sense then. Instead of, because we create these dreams of things that happen in a different way when in reality we're manipulating it ourselves.
Yeah. So but for me, one of the big, it's just hard to believe like they talk about in the movie, a lot of his opponents say that there was this like massive conspiracy between the like three massive institutions of the FBI, the CIA, and like the military-industrial complex. Which I guess those are all like, the FBI, the CIA, and the like the War Department, I guess you would say, or whatever. Kind of connected. I mean, it is quite a large conspiracy, and then they obviously have all these people like Clay Shaw, supposedly. I mean, it is kind of, if you think about it, an outlandish theory. Right. But it is very interesting that he had a lot of evidence that was enough that they were able to get a trial. Right. Because the only person ever brought to a trial over JFK's assassination. Which is quite interesting. It's
really odd because there are secrets that we know they exist. We don't know what they are. That those branches of government do keep to themselves that we may never know. Yeah.
So, until 2029.
Until 2029, but it's being pushed back, kind of like Jacqueline Kennedy's dress.
Why?
Yeah. So
wait, hold on. What?
Her dress. You don't know about her dress? Of course you don't know about her dress.
I've heard of that.
I mean, just the way you said that sounded so weird. It's getting pushed back, just like Captain Kennedy's dress.
I'm sorry,
John Michael. How dare you?
Sorry.
So indecent of you. But what do you really mean by that?
So, her dress was, of course, very bloody.
Yeah.
Because he kind of. Well, she took him and put him on his.
She's like holding him his head kind of right now.
Right, and even in the car too. But she asked that her and her family, I guess, asked that her dress not be released for another, I think they said 100 years.
Oh my gosh.
So we're gonna be dead because that was released in like the 80s. Yeah. But
I mean, like,
out of respect for family,
I feel like that's not gonna make much of a difference. Like, it's gonna finally come out and they're gonna be like, oh, look, there's blood on it, and it's Kennedy's. Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So, but it is back to the whole Jim Garrison thing. It's like, it is, like I said, very interesting that he was able to he brought him to trial. Like, he brought this guy. And now, honestly, this a little negative on the movie. This makes me think of this. Talking about Garrison and his theory. The ending doesn't really, the whole trial scene doesn't really relate back a whole lot to Shaw. Like, he talks a lot about, I don't know if that was, like, maybe that was one of the weaknesses in his thing, is that, like, he had this dude on trial, but, like, a lot of his theory, he was just a small part of it. And he kind of makes it clear when he says there's two fronts of this. We got to get Shaw and his part, and the rest of it will probably take 50 years or whatever. Right. So he understood that. But in the movie, he doesn't really have a lot of evidence in the trial scene he doesn't give a lot of evidence as to, like, he connects Shaw with a lot of these people, but I think that might have been one of the this might not even be a negative. That might have just been one of his weaknesses, is he wasn't able to connect Shaw clearly enough to the conspiracy.
And that's really common.
So I take back the negative. I think that's just what happened.
Well, and that's what happens in every civil and criminal case. It's very common for attorneys to go after this one person with very little proof, but go after them specifically and say, we get everything.
But for a larger purpose. That felt like what they were doing. Like, he was kind of a small... It felt like Shaw was kind of a smaller part. His main role, they thought, was like helping to head up that Cuban organization that was arming people, and that was kind of interesting because that actually did happen. That was a real operation, but they thought it was connected to obviously the assassination of Kennedy. And that's one of those things where there's so many things being thrown at you that it's hard to connect the dots sometimes. But that was one of the elements of the conspiracy. Anyway, well, Nate, I want to hear what your thoughts were just on the history of the movie.
Well, you figured this out pretty quick. I didn't know anything.
Oh, well, yeah, but just on like the historical time period.
I knew that Kennedy had been assassinated, and I knew that there were conspiracy theories about it, and I knew that this was the advent of the modern conspiracy theory, the idea of that.
For sure.
But I literally did not know any of it.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I'd seen this movie before. My dad is a big JFK assassination. He likes to study that. Yeah, kind of like you. And he's watched this movie multiple times. He's watched lots of documentaries. There's a real famous one called JFK, the Smoking Gun. That's a real famous documentary. Yeah, it's on here. And and so there's a lot of conspiracy theories and a lot of debate about this. And as the subtitles, or so to speak, of the movie is, at least on the theatrical release poster, it's like JFK, the story that won't go away. Like, it is this enduring kind of event that like we might never ever know the full explanation of what happened. It might always be a mystery.
So, since you asked me, and I don't have a lot of answer there, instead of looking back, I'm going to kind of look forward, which is kind of interesting, and address two things. Firstly, the idea of a conspiracy theory. So, people have lots of different opinions on this, and this is a very divisive thing, because people who buy into quote-unquote conspiracy theories are often sort of ostracized.
Right.
I think the idea of a conspiracy theory and the way that it's put forward is kind of ridiculous. These are just people who are trying to put together pieces to find answers to things that are hard to solve. Are some of them outlandish? Yes. Are all of them outlandish? No. No, they're not. And to slap this label on it and call it to discredit it purely because you're questioning it, I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about it?
I think, well, specifically just to address this conspiracy theory, I think this one, I called it outlandish earlier. This one, I mean, he did have a lot of interesting leads.
Right.
And enough to get a trial. So, like, this one is honestly, this is one of the more intriguing conspiracy theories I've ever heard of.
It is.
But in general, I do believe that a lot of people do, like, literally, if you just call something a conspiracy theory, it's like you're dismissing it. It might not even be a conspiracy theory. It might actually be a legitimate thing.
I think I object to that, the whole idea of that term.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because something is a theory about a conspiracy shouldn't discredit it at all. Now, if the ideas are terrible,
the word conspiracy doesn't even always need to be on there.
I know.
It's literally just a theory.
It's just a theory.
Yeah.
And we should call it that because it's a denigrating term that makes no sense. It's like the term racist nowadays, you know? Like if somebody doesn't like you, they just call you racist. It's like if somebody doesn't like your ideas, they just call it a conspiracy theory.
Right. John, what
do you think about the idea of a conspiracy theory?
I gave my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, because you can have a situation where something is a conspiracy and people theorize about it.
Yeah.
And so you can connect that as
but you're using that more technically.
Right. Yeah. In your sense, people who kind of make it seem degrading and make it seem like they're crazy or something, I don't like using it that way.
Yeah.
Just because people who are truly trying to search for something aren't really conspiracy theorists, they're just trying to seek truth, and that's the thing we find in the movie.
Yeah. So, like, a last thing about kind of goes with the history of this. When this movie was released in 1991, like, a big detractor of it was that it does promote conspiracy theories, and I've always kind of called a little bit of BS on that. Because, I mean, this is a historical thing. This happened. This guy had these ideas. He brought this dude to trial. Like, just because it shows what his ideas were and the evidence that he did have, and it shows the trial that happened, doesn't mean it's, like, promoting that conspiracy. It's just showing that this happened.
Yeah.
And so it generated a lot of controversy. It was like, especially over the whole thing where, Garrison says that, or tries to link LBJ as to the whole coup. Like, he tries to say that it was a whole coup d'etat, and that was real controversial. Because it might be real controversial because it's not known whether Garrison actually fully believed that. Maybe they might have kind of elaborated. They might have kind of embellished that a little bit in the movie because they really did put forward the whole idea of a coup with Johnson at the head. And so I don't know how accurate that is. It might be a little bit inaccurate. But this movie, I think, gets a little bit too much hate for it's just showing this conspiracy theory that's very relevant in this case.
The type of people who get offended at promoting conspiracy theories strike me as the type of people who want to shut down thought.
But if you think about it, though, this movie, if you look, people do question after watching this movie, I'm sure, what
What
actually
their
happened.
beliefs are,
So
yeah.
in a sense, it can be promoting conspiracy theories for certain people, but maybe in a good way. People are actually thinking about what
Like
happened,
Oliver's,
not in a degrading sense.
For the director Oliver Stone, this isn't his first time. Like he's done a lot of movies. Like we'll have to maybe have you back on sometime for his movie about Richard Nixon, which he did. And that's actually is about Nixon is the main character.
Yes.
Anyway, but he's known for like kind of making movies about controversial figures, such as like including Alexander, and like positing these ideas about them that other people had, and showing those ideas on screen. And I think it can be kind of bold and it's kind of, I think, cool that it's cool that he's willing to like cross some of those lines sometimes. And in this movie it worked really well. So you want to move on to final thoughts and rating?
Sure.
Unless you had any other thoughts on history.
This could go into history or final thoughts. I wanted to posit the question to y'all: what do you think the future of the current Kennedy, Robert Kennedy Jr.'s, what his future is, how that's going to affect our political landscape?
For me, like, I would just, I think obviously he's not going to win the election this time, the presidential election. But I don't. John Michael can probably tell us more about that.
Yeah, what do you think? How does the Kennedy family affect us going forward? And do you think there's a lot of people saying that there was an assassination attempt on RFK Jr. And so, can you speak to that also?
So, assassination attempts are very broad. I mean, you could have it in multiple ways. I'm sure there is. And if you look, about 80% of politicians or people involved in the political realm have assassination attempts. Yeah. It's just part of the job sometimes. And it's sad to say that, and it shouldn't be, but that's just how it is. So I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah.
So
what do you think about how the White House has refused to give him Secret Service protection?
Because he's running as an independent. Independent, especially the independent party, which really isn't an independent party because they're independent, aren't really two major political parties that are a threat to themselves, in a sense. If you're going to run as a Republican, you, in a sense, are going to be threatened by millions of Democrats, in a sense, on a political level or frame, if you want to think about that. And same for Democrats with Republicans. Yeah. So you have that security that's there because it's either going to be a Democrat or a Republican. It's not going to be anybody else.
But he wasn't given from my understanding, he wasn't given Secret Service protection even when he was running as a Democrat.
That's because it was the primary. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are using that to say things like that, but there are rules. The only reason Donald Trump had Secret Service protection in the primary was because he was the president, and they always had it from the point of taking office to their death.
Really? They get to keep some Secret Service?
That's really
them and their
cool.
families.
I actually didn't know that.
That is really cool. I did not know that.
Well, unless
I've got a couple more questions.
Okay.
Do you think he's going to run as the Libertarian nominee?
Who? RFK?
RFK.
No. Now that he's running as an independent, I think he's just going to stay there.
But that would give him ballot access in all 50 states.
It would, but it would decrease his chances of taking away votes.
Okay.
A lot of Republicans who are okay with the Libertarian Party will not vote Libertarian. Okay. And a lot of Democrats will have nothing to do with it. Okay. If you run as an independent, more Republicans and Democrats are prone to voting for
I've got two more questions concerning him. Number one, what do you think about his vice president pick?
Who is that?
So you have...
Oh, shoot, Aaron Rodgers, right? Yes.
No,
we didn't actually pick him.
There's a new one.
There's a new one? I didn't even hear about this.
You don't know about this?
You know about this?
Yes. It's a woman. I can't remember.
When did it change?
He picked a new one. It's a woman, and I can't remember her name, but there's a lot of fuss because she's apparently like a quote-unquote of the libs. She's like a big lib. Yeah. And so people are kind of upset about this because...
The Aaron Rodgers thing was kind of a joke.
It was kind of a joke. Let's see what her name is. Yeah, Nicole Shanahan.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is she related to like the famous coach for the Broncos? Mike Shanahan?
Oh my goodness.
Nicole Shanahan. So last question concerning RFK. Who do you think he's going to pull more votes from?
Biden, for sure.
Why?
Because Trump has a very solid base of people who are going to vote for him. And again, a lot of Republicans generally don't like voting independent if there is a solid candidate. There are a lot of Democrats who are very fed up with Biden, and respectfully so, and there are a lot of Republicans who are fed up with Trump and stuff, but just because they don't think he can actually do it. And I think the name recognition of RFK and then the energy he gives
Yeah.
will take away from.
Okay.
the
Excellent.
Democrat.
Now we can start.
Okay, so to move on to final thoughts, since we covered the history, talked about the conspiracy theory, and thanks for all your analysis.
Yeah, it was
really
fun,
appreciate
y'all.
it.
So for the final thought section, usually what we do is we just give kind of a summary of what we thought about the movie, just kind of, and then give a rating from 1 to 10, and
nice.
then just whatever else you want to say. So if you want to go first,
Sure. Okay. So.
and what you would say to maybe people that haven't seen the movie.
Yeah.
Definitely watch it. Especially, I always like to encourage people to get a different perspective on different kinds of things, and especially if whether you're on one side of for a conspiracy theory for it, if you're just for the one-man shooter, it's still important to realize the other kind of discussions that are going on. I think this movie is really good, especially on a legal perspective of giving it to you on a storyline. Just maybe try to read a little bit about it first and do the subtitles if you want to watch the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But overall, it was a good movie. I think it did very well, besides leaving out some points that would have gone along very well with it.
So what's your rating?
1 to 10.
Oh gosh, I think I'm going to give it an 8.
An 8. That's what I was
Which is pretty high for me for movies. So
I'll go first, and then we can have your famous message to the director.
There you go.
Anyway, I would give this. I agree, an 8 out of 10. It was exactly what I was thinking. That's precisely what I was thinking. Anyway, that's a line rather than. I really enjoy this movie. I think it's just a cool movie to exist. It really like John Michael said, it allows people to more. You learn more about the Kennedy assassination in general by watching this movie, and you also learn different viewpoints that people have on it, and the evidence behind people's views. And I think that's just really helpful to the general populace. And this movie is just from an educational perspective, it can be helpful, I think. But as a movie, it combines historical narrative with drama and with great acting and with a great screenplay to produce a very high quality, very good historical political thriller movie. Yes. And because it's kind of a thrilling movie. You don't know what's going to happen next. As the movie goes along. And so 8 out of 10 for me. And Oliver Stone did a pretty good job. Mm-hmm. All right, Nate's famous message to the director.
Well, I'll just say that from the end.
Okay, at the very end. That's the thing we do here.
All right, so I would recommend this movie to people if you have a 3-hour long plane ride, especially. This can burn a lot of time for you, and this will engage your brain. Mm-hmm. So the movie is well acted, well produced, well directed. The script is good. It covers interesting material, but it suffers from a bloated length and unnecessarily easily avoided drawbacks, such as the accents and
some nitpicks.
And the overuse of smoking and just some weird quirks that go on. So it falls short of the perfection mark. I'm gonna actually give this movie a 7 out of 10. Okay. I think I rated Platoon around that.
Yeah, 7. Yeah. So it's a solid movie.
It's a solid movie. It has drawbacks. And also I don't like Kevin Costner, so that probably factors into it a little bit.
You did say you enjoyed his performance in this movie.
I gotta say Kevin Costner does a good job in this movie, and it might be just because there's so many bad movies these days that Kevin Costner gets a boost because of all the trash.
Speaking of Kevin Costner, you heard about he's coming out with a 2-part epic Civil War Western film that he's directing and starring in the summer, bro. It's a 2-parter. It's good. I'm excited for it, actually. Just because we just don't get Civil War movies ever.
Kevin Costner reminds me of the dude that plays Chamberlain.
Oh yeah, Jeff Daniels.
Him and Jeff Daniels look really similar.
Yeah, they do. Anyway, all right. So here we go. We got Nate's message to the director.
So
Oliver Stone.
Oliver. You really blew it with Alexander,
which is 13 years after this.
And I was sorry to say that because I could tell you put a lot of work into it. This was a lot better, and for many reasons. However, Oliver, I would recommend that you try to tamp down on your worst tendencies that seem to kind of creep out. One of them being the movie length. Another of them being you making the actors say so much in so little time that it's like. Another thing that seems to keep creeping out in your movies is weird accents. Don't make Angelina Jolie talk like nobody talks. Don't make Kevin Costner tone down. Say Kevin, just calm down a little bit with the accent, okay? And then and then like the gay orgies, try to keep them to a minimum. You did in this movie. However, in Alexander, it was less so. So overall, I appreciate you tempering down your worst tendencies, but you just gotta keep it. Maybe hire a guy to look over your shoulder and be like, "Hey, Oliver, that's a little bit too long. Hey, Oliver, Angelina Jolie doesn't want to talk like that. Hey, Oliver, that's another gay orgy. You already did that in this movie." That's my message to Oliver.
There you go. But good job overall.
Good job overall. Good job overall. So, everyone, thank you for tuning in for this episode.
Oh, my file.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, all right, so yeah. Oh, shoot, no. Oh, no, I didn't get mine. Yeah, just I echo most of what you said. Yeah, with I didn't summarize my negatives. My big negative is sometimes there's a big boatloads of information dropped on you that can be kind of hard to take in, and the movie can be kind of hard to follow at times. But anyway.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for watching and tuning into this episode of Let's Talk Movies. Thank you so much, John Michael, for coming on for your analysis. Is there any social media that we could promote you on or something like that? I know you've gotten on social media since you're involved in politics.
I have. I'm only on Facebook and Truth Social.
Okay.
So
where can our audience find you if they're interested in following your political escapades?
Well, I mean, y'all can for sure, if you live in Thomas County, you can follow Mark Neesmith for County Commission District 4 for running that page. Woo. So give him some support.
Okay. And what about you?
What about me? Like my personal one?
Yeah, in case people want to support you.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, just type in my name, I guess, and find it. That's all you can really do. But yeah, we put a lot of our stuff we're going to be doing some more things later on in the summer for the Youth Council. We're going to get that running again. And just some political things going on. Just some sharing some campaigns and some things that happen in the state. So
nice. I hope you enjoyed coming on. We'll having you.
It was great.
We'll have you back sometime.
It was great. So keep your ears perked for our next episode, everyone. I think we have we're almost to 50 subscribers, I want to say.
Yeah, I think I've kind of
got a new one.
Yeah, woo!
Yeah, I'll send you the link for it.
You'll have to.
I think that we can get to 100 subscribers.
There you go.
Anyway.
Yeah. So 100 subscribers. All right. Anyway.
Okay, cool.
See y'all later, y'all.
Yeah. That was fun.
That was fun.